Ahoy there, fellow travelers. Welcome to E-Travels with Trules, a personal and literary podcast of travel adventures and misadventures from around the world. This is Eric Trules, and thanks for listening. E-Travels with Trules. The Iron Horse and the Bucket Brigade. Spring 2002. It's 8:30 in the morning. Surya and I have just arrived at the dusty colonial train station in Kota Kinabalu, the biggest town in East Malaysia on the island of Borneo. Wild, man. I'm here on a Fulbright grant for 4 months, just 4 months after 9/11. Friends have told me that I'm crazy to have come. They're worried about me. Maybe I'll be beheaded or crucified or whatever Muslims do to Jews in East Malaysia. But here I am. I just couldn't pass it up. I'm here to teach Muslim village students at an all-Islamic university how to become more themselves. Something definitely not encouraged in a conformist culture where everyone answers the muezzin's Friday call to prayer at the local mosque, where the imam harangues the congregation against George W. and satanic America, and where my university colleagues have images of Osama Bin Laden on their screensavers. 'Cause the great bearded man is the only David in town to stand up to Goliath America. It's a little disconcerting at first, Osama Bin Laden on ubiquitous t-shirts in the malls, on the screensavers down the hall. But, you know, we humans can get used to anything. But here we are at the dusty colonial train station to buy tickets to Tenam, the little town in the mountainous outback, to take the famous Iron Horse, one of the last British colonial steam locomotives on the still operative North Borneo Railway line. We're leaving the 21st century completely behind and entering the condescending but terribly efficient world of 1930s colonial Britain, where the brown-skinned Borneo natives smile a lot but can't be trusted, and the clever Brits have industriously managed to engineer a way through the untamed jungle, through the wild rivers and gorges. Okay, so we follow all the white-skinned and gray-haired tourists to the resting Iron Horse. But when we show our tickets, we're asked to leave the high-priced tour group and move to a different car, with all the brown-faced locals and Islamic women with tudungs on their heads, but not over their faces. The two cars look exactly the same, with hard wooden leatherback seats, broken overhead fans, and frequently missing windows. But the white-headed tourists have paid $160 for the round trip, catered lunch, and morning trek, while my wife and I are just going one way to Tenam with the locals, $4 each, because we're staying overnight, and the Iron Horse ticket office doesn't sell round trips, except for the same day. The railway whistle calls us to battle at precisely 8:50 a.m. We lurch to a start and grind forward for 5 minutes. We lurch to a stop. The effort has obviously been too much for our temperamental Iron Horse, which has a rhythm of its own. Lurch, start, lurch, stop, and so on up the hill. Surya and I are sitting there looking at each other. This train isn't moving. Doesn't matter how much you paid. We're all sweltering in the equatorial heat, and 5 minutes seems more like an hour. So the two of us grab our bags, and like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, we jump off the train just as it makes its next violent lurch. Well, actually, that's a lie. We just sit there and lurch, start, lurch, stop, all the way up the mountainside with the rest of the passengers along the old Papar River Road, along the blue-green majesty of the South China Sea, past groves of green coconut and rubber trees and high-water grass chaparral. Soon we're more chugging than lurching, but still the old iron horse is grinding its metal gears every inch of the way. It bucks forward, crunching its cars back into each other. It makes dangerous hairpin turns along the steep river gorge, but it seems to know this wild eastern head-hunting country like the back of its iron hand from a long era ago, before the colonizing Brits brought their repressed Protestantism to the uncivilized heathens, from an age long before the Anglos brought their angry and punishing God, who amazingly had an immaculately born son, who generously died for their heathen sins, but who also guaranteed their salvation if they would just go to church and become good Christians. This, of course, made no sense to the Borneo heathens, who nevertheless were forced to put down their blowpipes, cover their naked skins, and to forget as much as possible about their pre-colonial animist ways. Anyway, about 2.5 hours past Beaufort, the old iron horse suddenly starts coughing and sputtering again into a series of dead stops, the last of which seems fatal. Within 5 minutes, the entire North Borneo Railway crew of 5 makes its way to the forward engine car, and after a brief conference, one of the bare-chested dudes climbs off the train with a blue plastic bucket in hand. He dips the bucket into one of the raging mountain river streams, fills it with water, climbs back onto the train, and pours the cool elixir into the huffing and exhausted iron horse's steam engine lungs. It works. The old iron horse starts up again and chugs its way another 15 minutes forward until it dies again. Another blue plastic bucket later, it starts again, then dies again. But the track is getting steeper and steeper, and after the 5th restart, the old iron horse dies again. This time, permanently. And this time, way above any of the engine-reviving river streams. The crew conference goes on this time for about half an hour. We all sit there, sipping our diminishing supply of bottled water. It's frigging hot, to say the least. Some of the local women even take off their tudugs. It doesn't seem like we'll be going to Tenam anytime soon. The blue plastic bucket dude is just standing there hopelessly, staring down at the river below. It looks impossible to get down there, but then I see at one spot at car number 3, there's some concrete terracing that's been built down to the river. I mean, it seems to me, and who am I but a visiting American boule, that if we form a line of people down the terraced concrete incline to the river and pass the bucket up, one person at a time from the river to the engine, that we should be able to get the old Iron Horse running again. I asked Surya to translate my brilliant idea to the crew. She tells me, just be quiet and mind your own business. Of course, I don't do either. Instead, with a little clown sign language and with the help of another Indonesian passenger who gives me an enthusiastic thumbs up, we do indeed form a perfect and spontaneous bucket brigade. The blue bucket dude climbs all the way down the concrete incline to the riverbank, and I follow him, bravely commandeering position number 2. I'm followed by passengers taking positions 3, 4, 5, and we spontaneously create a heroic human lifeline of about 20, all the way from the riverbank to the steam engine. I even get them to produce a second blue bucket. And soon, with a little practice and spilling, we have a working international rescue team made up of brown-skinned Borneans, white-haired Bulis, train engineers, and even my Sumatran wife, who has decided reluctantly to join us. I mean, this is the way international conflicts need to be resolved. Cooperation, risk-taking, thinking outside the box, blue plastic buckets, lines of strangers working together, forming disciplined, hard-working bucket brigades. Just think what we could do in the Middle East, in the Ukraine, right here in Donald Trumped America. And before you know it, the old Iron Horse is back on her old iron legs, huffing and puffing her way back up along the track until, voila, we have arrived in Tenon. Only 3 hours after our scheduled arrival time. Perhaps not very British, punctuality-wise, but hey, sometimes you just gotta be thankful for small miracles. And you know what? I can't speak for the others, but this train ride, with the historic British failing but revived North Bornean Iron Horse, with our great internationally improvised Bule Borneo rescue team, this train ride has been the best train ride of my life. Love from the wild man of Borneo, Bill. Original music composed by Amanda Yamate, sound designed by Alicia Bermudez, produced by Harry Duran at Fullcast. Please contact us with your feedback and to schedule an on-air interview. This podcast has been supported with the USC Capstone Grant. Special thanks to Phil Allen and the School of Dramatic Arts for their support.